Okay, I bet some of you have been wondering, when is she going to start talking about those new rules determining 1099s versus W-2? It's funny because, again, I want your comments. I want your feedback. And some of you, I'm not ignoring you. I haven't been blowing you off. It's just that I've been kind of dragging my feet a little bit because this has been in such a revolving door, trying to determine how we, what steps we take, what factors do we consider when we're comparing a 1099 to a W-2. But I think what we have now, which was just announced by the Department of Labor, I think we're pretty solid. And I want you to know what we have as of today, February 2024, because it keeps flip-flopping. It probably will again when the next administration gets in. But here's the new rule as of 2023, 2024. And what's really crazy about this is that this can be a very expensive mistake. And I'm still running into companies who are just emphatic about keeping independent contractors. So let's go over some of the new ruling, and let's talk about this, because it warrants consideration. You need to think about this. So a 1099, independent contractor, what is that supposed to mean? That means that you are bringing somebody in, you're going to have them work, you've already identified what that work's going to be. They are not going to be in your payroll. They are not going to be covered by workers' comp. You are not going to be paying any taxes or deducting any taxes. They should be carrying their own professional liability insurance, and that's a big one. They should be invoicing you, right? They should not have any permanency. And let's kind of break some of this down here a little bit. One of the things that they want to make absolutely sure that you understand, and it's very economically based. It used to be in 2021, the rule put great importance on two major factors. And that was the nature and degree of the potential employer's control over the work. So when I was talking to clients, I'd say, okay, well, are you going to determine their hours? Are you going to determine when and where they do the work? Are they going to use your equipment? Are you going to literally control the quality? And it seemed valid. The second major factor was the worker's opportunity for profit or loss. Do they get to tell you what the price is? Do they get to tell you what the hourly rate is? Or are you determining that? Are you saying, I have this job and this is what I'll pay you? Well, the new rule is broken down into about 6 factors. So here's what I want you to focus in on. And again, take notes or give me a call and I'll be more than happy to send these to you. But number 1 is the worker's opportunity for profit or loss depending on their managerial skills. There's an operative term in that one. Managerial skills. It considers whether the worker exercises managerial skill that affects their economic success or failure in performing the work. Do they get to determine how that work is done? Does the worker get to negotiate the pay for the work provided? Can they accept or decline the work? Can they look at you and say, yeah, I'm not doing that? That's not going to be in my scope of work. Are they able to engage in marketing, advertising, or other efforts to acquire additional work outside of your work? Or are you dominating their entire time? Do they get to make decisions about hiring others? Can they hire other people to work for them? Do they get to purchase their own materials, their own equipment? Or are you controlling who works on what, when, and on what equipment? Most of the 1099s I'm aware of are not given the ability to price negotiate. A company can. A company will walk in and say, well, this is what I charge, and this is what the project will cost. A real company can't afford to sit there and negotiate with you too far. No, they can a little bit. A real company will carry liability insurance, and they will definitely work with their own equipment. You might supplement a little bit, but not completely. And the workers' investments are also considered on a relative terms with the employer's investments in the overall business. So I'm going to come in and do my thing with my expertise and experience, and you're going to give us enough perimeter that we'll both be happy with the job. So a painter comes in, I say, that's the wall I want painted. Here's the color that I want on there. And the painter says, great, I'll determine my own brushes. I'll determine my own drop cloths. I'll determine my own ladders. And I'll determine how much time it takes. And guess what? I'll determine what you pay me. Now, again, a little negotiation, but they still, the worker still gets to decide more of that than not. How about the degree of permanency? I have one client who absolutely insists that this particular individual that he has as a 1099 has to be a 1099 because the worker himself refuses to become an employee. He had his own business. He lost a bunch of clients. My client is his last company to be working with, and he just hasn't let go of his ego to say, yeah, I only work for you now. All my time and attention is on you. And I get paid what you provide for me. And he's been here for almost 7 years doing the same thing. So every year I look at him and go, okay, here's my annual. You need to convert him to a W-2. And my client goes, probably won't happen. It's your choice. But it's really not his choice. And when we look at these new rules, we start to understand that the consequences of not following these rules can get extremely costly. Another part of this, number 4, is nature and degree of control. And we've already talked a little bit about this. That individual who's the 1099 shows up at a specific time and generally leaves when the work is done, but they know they can count on him Monday through Friday. And if there's a weekend, he'll come in for a weekend, but they know his schedule. And he works according to their client's needs based on their standards and on what they feel is necessary for their business. If you tried to do that with my painter would look at me and say, well, I'm sorry, but I'm going to use my own ladders, and I'm going to brush stroke this way versus, up and down. I'm going to go side by side because that's how I feel it's best done. And I've got 3 more clients behind me. So if you don't want me to do this, I can leave and I'm going to go take care of my other clients. He has control. He has equal control. And a real 1099, a real business, a real independent contractor will exercise control. Number 5 is extent to which the work performed is an integral part of the employee's business. If this is a skill set that you have numerous people doing, it's not so much a dependency. because he's just kind of blending in and picking up the slack. He's doing work that others can do anyways. But if it's a project that you're hiring this gentleman or bringing this gentleman in or woman to do work that's you're selling it, and they're the ones who are doing it. No one else can do it. That's the only person who's going to do it. And you keep selling it and selling it and selling it. So the individual can't leave because the company's dependent on them. There's a flag. There's a real flag. Permanency, or an integral part of my business. The painter's not an integral part of my business. My business has nothing to do with the paint on the wall. He comes in, he does his thing, I go. My business is going to continue whether the paint's on the wall or not. But if I bring somebody in as a gig worker or a 1099, and I just keep getting more work and more work and more work, what should I really do? Taxes that were not paid, the 6%? And then they had all the fees, the penalties for each one of these things. So the IRS had their fees, the wage and hour had their fees, the ERISA fees they had to pay. I'm telling you guys, that company and that division went out of business. They couldn't pay all the fees that were required. The penalties were far too great. So what's the lesson here? The lesson is, if it looks like a duck, quacks like a duck, and waddles like a duck, it's a duck. And it's, as much as that individual may want to be a 1099, the new regulations may be saying something different. Talk to your labor law attorney or get a good, solid consultant, one that's been around for 15, 20 years and has seen the come and goes and understands what a duck is before you end up paying way too much for the wrong reason. Thanks for listening to the Human Resource.